Good evening and welcome to NTV Weekend Edition. Our top stories. Tonight, police say they've finally firmed up case against Monica Kimani's suspected killer. What will Joseph Irungu be charged with in court on Monday? Also tonight, Migori Governor Okoth Obado's health concerns and a second attempt to wriggle out of detention. Plus, the referendum politics.
William Ruto opposed this constitution so much that he should not be the one to say, now I like it.
It doesn't make sense to have a parliament that has such high numbers of representatives, and they should be clawed back.
More board the referendum train as the divide widens. And also tonight,
mimi jamani nikisema naitwa sishuki mtakuwa nimekosea.
Mimi nimeingia paka bedroom yake na sijisifu.
Outdoors, indoors and on the dance floor. Getting in shape for 2022 and other revelations on Bullseye.
NTV Weekend Edition with Mark Masai.
Glad you could join us on NTV Weekend Edition. Help me welcome my co-presenter in sign language, Raphael Mbalo. To our top story. The prime suspect in the murder of businesswoman Monica Kimani, Joseph Irungu, is set to face a murder in the first-degree charge early next week. The DCI, which has been investigating the case, now says they have sufficient evidence to convict Irungu on the charge that carries a death or life sentence. Prosecution also wants to consolidate the cases, present the suspect in court for a plea hearing. NTV's Brenda Wanga reports that these developments come as television journalist Jackie Maribe has samples taken for DNA testing.
The 10 days that the courts granted the prosecution to probe Joseph Irungu's possible involvement in the gruesome murder of business lady Monica Kimani elapsed on Sunday. But Joseph Irungu, alias Joey, will not be leaving state custody just yet. Irungu will be presented to court for the second time in just over a week. This time round, the prosecution will be bringing a first-degree murder charge against the suspect.
We must balance the rights.
The prosecution is convinced that it has gathered sufficient evidence to sustain this charge. Amongst the evidence the state has in its arsenal include conclusive DNA and fingerprint test results that place him at the victim's Lamuria Gardens home in Kimani, where she was found murdered. The prosecution also recovered partly burnt pieces of clothing believed to have been worn by the suspect on the night of the murder. But it just isn't the first-degree murder charge that Irungu has to worry about. The state will also want to hold him accountable for bearing false witness. In the aftermath of the murder, he presented himself to the police with a bullet wound that he said had been inflicted by unknown people. It has since been established that he shot himself in what his fiancé says was a suicide attempt. While the prosecution prepares to charge Irungu, they are also turning their attention to the third suspect arrested in the case, Brian Kasaine. Sources at the DCI intimate that they have a concrete case against Kasaine in relation to the murder case. Already, Kasaine is in custody pending investigations that have been centered on a gun used in the shooting of Irungu. He is expected to submit his samples for DNA testing as well between Sunday and Monday. The Central Firearms Bureau has confirmed that Kasaine was in possession of the gun illegally. The license issued to Kasaine to own the gun had expired in 2016 and hadn't been renewed for use in 2017 and 2018. Jackie Maribe has also had her samples taken today as detectives try to establish whether she was at the scene of the murder that fateful Thursday. She is also likely to be held accountable for giving false statements to the police in regards to the shooting of a fiancé and trying to cover up the same incident. The cases will now be taken over by Nairobi starting next week. Brenda Wanga, NTV.
Moses Dollar, a journalist, has been found guilty of manslaughter in the death of his wife, former NTV reporter Wambui Kabiru. Dollar, who has been taken into remand, will be sentenced on the 26th of this month. Dola had denied committing murder in the trial that began in 2011. The AG had rejected his plea to have the charges reduced to manslaughter, saying there was sufficient evidence to sustain a murder trial. Kabiru's lifeless body was found in their bedroom, covered in a blanket, and police took her husband into custody. High Court Judge Roslyn Korir, who made the ruling, also cancelled Dola's bond terms. The family of the late Kabiru says it is happy that their daughter can finally find justice.
Moses Dola Otieno is charged with the offense of murder, contrary to Section 202. The following morning, however, she saw only Dola.
A young boy lost his life while two others are nursing serious injuries after they were hit by a speeding vehicle along the Kahuro-Kangema Road in Murang'a County. Now, it is alleged that the driver lost control of the vehicle at a dangerous stretch and veered off the road, hitting the three Kianderi primary school students who were walking home from school. Residents of Kianderi village in Kiharu constituency took to the street in protest, demanding that authorities construct bumps along that killer stretch that they say has claimed many lives.
Hivi karibuni tuliongea na mhandisi wa barabara hii ambaye alituahidi atafanya juhudi japokuwa alituambia kuna uzito.
Na watoto watatu walijeruhiwa na mmoja akafariki wakati alikuwa anahudumiwa Mulirajas Hospital.
Migori Governor Okoth Obado has filed another application to have his bail reviewed, citing health concerns. Obado reportedly fell ill while in remand at the industrial area prison and had been admitted at the Kenyatta National Hospital. The Migori governor had been denied bail in the murder case involving Rongo University student Sharon Otieno. Obado, in his application, says he has been suffering from a severe back problem since 2013 that affected his ability to stand for long hours and has been under special care. The complication, he says, had been aggravated as it had not been attended to during the time he was in remand. Obado further says he was not a flight risk and will attend court when required. Five Chinese nationals are in police custody after they were found in possession of military equipment during a 5 o'clock raid of their Lavington residence this morning. A team of detectives from the Directorate of Criminal Investigations and officers from the Immigration Department arrested the 4 men and 1 woman who were in possession of military uniforms, including boots, tear gas canisters, radio calls, laptops, metal detectors, walkie-talkies, and 1 pair of U.S. Army uniform. The 5 claimed that they were planning to open a security firm, but preliminary investigations reveal that they have no work permits. They were seized and kept in custody as they are believed to be a threat to national security. The Aga Khan University Hospital is battling accusations of cruelty and medical negligence by a family whose daughter has been living at the hospital since July 2012. And according to the family, dumped by the hospital at their doorstep. The hospital, in a statement to newsrooms, however, discounts the family's claims, saying 40-year-old Kibibi Abdallah was brought in July 2012 with fluids in her brain and had been discharged to her family's care after getting well, but the family abandoned her at the hospital.
40-year-old Kibibi Abdallah struggles to get on her feet on her own. She needs her walking stick to find her balance. For the last 2 years, she struggled to do everything she once did with ease. She says things took a nasty turn for her 6 years ago, on the 19th of July 2012, when she collapsed and had to be rushed to hospital. 6 years on, and still in her hospital robes, she's back home, but not under circumstances she had anticipated.
So when I'm in the showers, a nurse comes to tell me, "Hey, Kibibi, you're in the showers, eh? Hurry up."
This morning, her caregivers at the hospital prepared her for her usual morning routine, but there was no hint that this would be for the last time.
So I was taken until the staff car parking. Yeah. And I was put in a vehicle. So They've told they called HTAs to pack up my stuff.
The hospital, in a statement, defended the decision to send Kibibi home, saying it was in her interest and that due to the millions of shillings she had accrued in bills, the facility could no longer host her. The family, however, says it had not been informed that she would be coming home and had not been billed.
We actually thought that she was just going in hospital for a day or two. When Dr. Joey talked to me, Professor Joey, he just said, let us observe, and because there is hydrocephalus, let us find out what the cause is. So they were just draining. And in fact, when the external was done, originally she improved.
The family took legal action against the hospital and the surgeon who operated on Kibibi.
It was taken for the first surgery, the procedure that I was saying, that was not the one I signed for, so they did a wrong procedure. She was in the ward for 2 weeks. When the XVD also fell, she started going back. She started getting dull. She couldn't speak. She was lethargic.
The hospital, on its part, says the suit filed in 2016 was dismissed. The family says a petition filed with the hospital's medical board exonerated the doctors of any negligence, though they were unhappy with the decision. Though the family claims they have visited their daughter throughout her hospital stay, the hospital says she was discharged in 2012 and has been there without the hospital's consent.
I want to challenge the doctor and the hospital. What was the Kibibi status at that time? Kibibi was in ICU. Or if she was not in ICU, she was still semi-comatose. She was in bed. We were changing diapers. We were feeding the nasogastric tube. So at what point was she discharged when she was with those tubes? Where was she going with those tubes?
According to the hospital, the family has abandoned her and they had to hire a private investigator to track down the family. Leila Mohammed, NTV.
Now to the hottest topic in the political scene. ODM leader Raila Odinga maintains the decision to make changes to the constitution lies with Kenyans. Meanwhile, the National Council of Churches of Kenya has rallied with those in support of a referendum to ease the burden of overrepresentation bearing down on Kenyans. And as Vincent Odur now reports, the referendum debate is still a game of politics and politricks.
8 years after the constitution was ratified, the calls to change bits of it have only now hit the high note. ODM leader Raila Odinga, who has been vote hunting in Migori County, holds a referendum was inevitable. It was only a matter of when. For Odinga, this was the only way Kenyans could achieve the change they so much clamor for. The National Council of Churches of Kenya seems to have also boarded the referendum train. NCCK Secretary General Peter Karanja says this was the only way to deal with over-representation.
We are overrepresented. We have 47 county assemblies that are making laws. We have a Senate and we have the National Assembly. It doesn't make sense to have a parliament that has such high numbers of representatives, and they should be clawed back.
Some leaders insist for the constitutional change to benefit Kenyans, it should seek to preserve and empower county governments besides nurturing inclusivity.
Lakini jambo ambalo tungesema kama kile huyu Akota alisema, hatungependa kabisa serikali za county zikaweze kuguswa, kwa maana ndizo zimesaidia mwananchi kufika mahali amefika.
Serikali za ugatuzi ndio tunafaa kuzungumzia ili wapate mapato makubwa, mapesa ziongezeke ili vitu kama hivi vianze kufanyika katika kaunti zote.
We need to expand the executive to create the position of prime minister with 2 deputy prime ministers, because if that is done, you'll be able to create greater inclusivity.
Kitui Governor Charity Ngilu has put the Deputy President William Ruto on the spot for his change of tune, rejecting changes on a document he vehemently campaigned against in 2010.
He should be the last man to say that he likes it. And he should tell us why he likes it, which he didn't like that time, if he was not playing politics with the Kenyans.
The calls to amend the country's supreme law have also centered around proposals to reduce the number of elected representatives that have inflated the costs of running government. Vincent Odur, NTV.
The Catholic University of Eastern Africa, Kwea, stands accused of lack of professionalism and the hiring of lecturers with claims that most of them do not have the requisite qualifications. Dr. Rosa Ko, a senior lecturer at the institution, claims that she was assaulted by the social sciences head of department for not approving examinations set by lecturers she considers to be unqualified instructors. She maintains that the quality of education at the university is at risk on account of unprofessional newcomers in academia. Charity Mwangi reports on the questions at Kwea.
Honors lower division.
The Commission for University Education, Appointment and Promotions guidelines spell out that a lecturer must hold a PhD. This, however, has not been the case at the Catholic University of Eastern Africa, according to one of its lecturers, Dr. Rosa Ko.
As far as my department is concerned, I'm the only PhD holder in political science of the political science, and it's not an independent department. It's still subdued under social science. So among all the social science subjects, I bet there are a very handful number of PhDs, which is very sad, including me, and most of them are just master's holders.
In a recent incident, Dr. Kaur says the social studies head of department, Samuel Ndiritu Wakanywa, asked her to moderate exams that had been prepared by her former students, who she was informed would be joining the institution as teaching staff. She says one of the new ladies was a C average student during her undergraduate studies, which she supervised her on 3 years ago, and who thereafter joined the master's program, which she is allegedly yet to complete.
When I looked at the questions, they were not quality questions, meaning nonsensical, idiotic, open-ended, without any of the theories, scholarly theories, that make up the literature review of the particular field they're supposed to teach.
The lecturer also says that the lecturer candidates were not trained in international relations and diplomacy, which they were to teach at diploma level. She then declined to approve the work.
So I tried to walk away from the room, and he tried to stop me from leaving the room, so he grabbed my arm, which is in the police office. It's a police office report. I told him that stop touching me, and these people were waiting outside of outside of the classroom, and also the instructors were sitting in their room. In total, about 30 people. They're all witnesses to your misconduct.
She has furnished NTV with a copy of a P3 form confirming the injuries. She further alludes to there being a known inappropriate relationship between Wakanywa and the said former student.
Trend, the girls are favored over boys in terms of getting good grades over not doing much work. The girls start to have this sense of entitlement.
On the Kwea website are curriculum vitae of various lecturers. For those in the social sciences department, for instance, most of the lecturers are not yet done with their PhDs, and among them is the head of department, Samuel Wakanywa. Kaur says that her students have expressed concerns in pursuing a master's degree in her department owing to the lack of professionalism which is exhibited by the head of the department. In a statement sent to NTV, the institution insists that it has an elaborate recruitment and engagement policy that ensures that only qualified administrative and faculty from diverse backgrounds come on board as per the requirements of each job. The university stated that the promotions were done on merit across all the faculties and that all their lecturers meet the set standards by the Commission for University Education. Regarding the assault of Dr. Kaur, the university says that it is conducting internal investigations as it does not condone favoritism, nepotism, cronyism, nor any form of harassment and assault. Charity Mwangi, NTV.
There was nothing of the sort when I was at Kwea, actually Tangaza College, which is a constituent of Kwea. And I owe a lot to Sister Paula Moji, who shaped me into the journalist I am today, at least a good part. And of course, I'm sure Tangaza is still doing a good job in churning out good journalists. Back to politics. Deputy President William Ruto has remained silent since he kicked up a storm around ODM leader Raila Odinga, who he accused of plotting to kick him out of the Jubilee Party. The Deputy President also told Raila that he is aware of the content and extent of the handshake and warned the ODM leader to keep off areas not covered by the handshake. But Ruto is not the first to accuse Raila of planning to wreck the Jubilee ship. And as Ken Mijungu reports, the exchange of words is getting personal.
Nimesikia chairman akitaja jina ya Ruto, damu yangu ikachemuka. Nikasema siwezi kukaa.
This was at a campaign rally in Migori County to drum up support for ODM senatorial candidate Ochilo Ayako. ODM legislators termed it a contest between the Deputy President William Ruto and ODM leader Raila Odinga. They accused Ruto of sponsoring a candidate against an ODM candidate.
If Kenyans decide to change the constitution through a referendum or otherwise, William Ruto has no choice but to follow.
In the past week, the legislators have also reacted to Ruto's accusation that Raila intends to take over Jubilee Party.
We are not chasing him from anywhere. He's running away from his shadow. His shadow is what is chasing him away.
Utafukuzwa vipi nyumbani kwako? Sisi tunajua wenye Jubilee.
There were varied reactions 5 months ago when President Uhuru Kenyatta and Raila Odinga shook hands in public declaration that their differences brought about by the 2017 election had come to an end.
Lakini sisi hapana amini former Prime Minister. Saa ile mkienda pahali uambiwe muombe, usikubali kufunga macho. Ukae ukiwa macho throughout. Kwa sababu mtu ambaye tuko na yeye hatuwezi muamini ni mchoraji.
While Waititu was explicit, others were somewhat checked.
I have looked at Raila Odinga. He looks like a duck, he walks like a duck, he quacks like a politician. He is ready for 2022.
Wamejua rais wa Kenya wa 5 wa 2022 ni William Ruto. Ndio maana wanataka kupitia chini, wanaenda referendum, wanataka kubadilisha katiba.
This has now come full circle.
Hamuwezi kunifukuza ODM ati mkanifuata ati mnanifukuza Jubilee. Haiwezekani. So if you think you are going to use the handshake to export conmanship into our party, we are telling you that's not going to happen.
March 2002 perhaps exemplifies the concerns of the Jubilee allied leaders ahead of the 2002 general election. KANU, then led by retired President Daniel Arap Moi, merged with Raila's NDP, who subsequently became the party's Secretary General. But this marriage was short-lived after the retired president failed to endorse Raila Odinga and any other seasoned leader for the position of president, instead picking the young Uhuru Kenyatta.
Even you, if you were a deputy president of a country, you would be ranting crazy. The DP is upset because it looks like there is something being done, being organized, being choreographed without his express engagement. And that's how I interpret it.
Raila walked away from the party, but in tow were other senior party members who also felt shortchanged. President Kenyatta eventually lost the election to the Kibaki-Raila National Rainbow Coalition. Ken Mijungu, NTV.
With 20 minutes past the hour, let's agree to take a vote in favor of a break on NTV Weekend Edition. I'll be back shortly.
NTV Weekend Edition with Mark Masai.
Welcome back. They're sometimes among the least appreciated yet most valuable members of society. They spend hours, days and years on end imparting knowledge and values on impressionable minds and hearts. Some admittedly have not been the ideal or are very far from it. However, many teachers still work in conditions which are unconducive for effective performance. On this World Teachers Day, Zacchaeus Mwasami spoke to a retired teacher in Bungoma who reflects on the bitter and sweet pages of the life of a Kenyan teacher.
He hung his boots, dropped his chalk and closed that chapter of his life. 38 years of molding young minds and lives in classrooms came to a close.
I served the government from 1st May 1976 and retired in 2014 on the 31st August.
Livingstone Chenge from Butonge village in Sirisia constituency in Bungoma County, like many other retired teachers, says his journey in the class and staff rooms was not without challenges. Over the years, the status that teachers held months ago has progressively been held in lower esteem. Being called Mwalimu was a societal badge on the shoulder. But now, the situation in some cases is still wanting.
If you calculate the man hours and look at what the teacher is being paid at the end of the month, it does not tally. What the Kenyan teacher is being paid today is not sufficient for his input or her input.
Today, there appears to be higher levels of indiscipline among schoolgoers, partly fueled by the increasing access to information and influence of varied cultures. This has often raised concern among the older generation teachers who hope that enough can be done to mold responsible citizens.
By withdrawing the cane, the teacher is a parent. He does not punish with the intention to kill. We have only used a few cases where possibly one or two teachers have made a mistake or possibly punished pupils, and then with their own challenges, it had ended up in something different.
World Teachers Day is marked on the 5th of October annually and aims to appreciate, assess and improve the educators of the world and address their plight.
For close to 4 decades, Mwalimu Livingstone Chenge traversed 4 primary schools before retiring as a head teacher. He ascertains that throughout that period, he underwent different hurdles for the 38 years he was in the profession. Mwalimu Chenge, however, believes that one of these fine days, a Kenyan teacher will be able to work under a conducive and friendly environment that will be able to produce quality education. Zacchaeus Masami, NTV, Bungoma.
Mwalimu Livingstone, hats off to you and thank you for your service to the nation. I certainly remember 1 or 2 teachers. In fact, I'll say yes, Mr. and Mrs. Longkoshu, Siape Primary School in Narok, Dusty Narok. I remember you for the NTV, which you used to, put us in line. And also Mr. Kabiru in high school, Aquinas High School, for the kibare you gave me on my first day reporting to school. Thank you, sir. I am a good citizen now. In honor of our teachers, we ask you to share your message of thank you to your teachers. Name them and the school you were in on our SMS line 20686 and tag us on @NTV Kenya and @Mark Masai on Twitter, and we shall sample some of the comments in the broadcast. To some good news, or at least for some, farmers from the county of Uasin Gishu have already started receiving payment from the National Cereals and Produce Board. However, only farmers who had supplied maize worth less than 2 million shillings received payment, with the fate of large-scale farmers still in limbo. Lois Wangoi reports.
There is a sigh of relief across Uasin Gishu County after farmers confirmed receiving payment from the National Cereals and Produce Board. Most of the farmers claim they supplied maize to the government more than a year ago. One farmer, Wilson Kulum, says he supplied about 650 bags and was elated to receive payment.
Tokea leo pesa itakuwa kwa account lakini chini ya milioni 2. Wale walio na zaidi ya milioni 2 ambaye ni kunia 650, kitu kama kunia 650 watapata leo. Kesho nafikiri itakuwa watu wengine, labda wale walio kupatiana pesa zao zaidi ya kunia 700 na kwenda mbele.
At the NCPB depots across the country, a sense of calm was evident. There were fewer farmers demanding payment. However, large-scale farmers are yet to know their fate.
Ningependa tu kusema ya kwamba wale wakulima 541 ambao wamepata hii pesa milioni 2 na kutaramuka chini si mwisho. Wale wako nyumbani ambao wanastahili zaidi ya milioni 2 program, sababu rais amechukulia jukumu hizi, najua sasa kupikia Jumatatu Jumanne ukiujao, nafikiri hizi pesa zingine sasa libwa.
On Thursday, the president warned against misappropriating funds meant to pay the maize farmers. The farmers are not impressed by the push and pull that has been going on for over a year and are convinced a bulk of the large-scale farmers will still not be paid.
Tuna serikali ile si serikali tena. Ya kutuambia CS wa finance anatuambia pesa iko tayari, imeenda kwa CS wa agriculture. CS wa agriculture anasema pesa iko na pesa hiyo hakuna. 1.4 billion haitatutosha. Tunataka serikali ilazimishwe release 3.5 billion ya kulipa wakulima.
The farmers now want the tough-talking president they witnessed on Thursday to fix the challenges affecting maize farmers by weeding out corruption and cartels. Lois Wangoi, NTV, in the county of Uasin Gishu.
From Uasin Gishu, we take a break here on NTV Weekend Edition. Dan Mwangi will be back with the business. Stay with us.
With Safaricom Business.
Good evening and welcome to NTV Business. My name is Dan Mwangi. Now, sugar production in the first 8 months of this year has increased by about 41% to 325,393 tons as compared to the same period last year, as the sector lights up to improved weather conditions. But as Victor Kiprop reports, low cane production, competition from cheap imports and the high cost of production are still challenging the development of the sweetener.
After a rough season that saw production drop by 41% in 2017 from the 638,340 tons produced in 2016 due to adverse weather conditions, Kenya's sugar sector is beginning to see better days. Production and sales for the first 8 months of the year have both jumped by 41% and 32% to 325,393 tons and 315,529 tons respectively, as 10 of the country's 12 functioning sugar factories except Muhoroni and Chemelil recorded improved performances. Meanwhile, retail prices for the period have dropped by 19% to an average of 114 shillings per kilogram compared to 141 shillings per kilogram recorded in the same period last year. Total sugar imports decreased by 82% to just 153,762 tons compared to 899,396 tons imported in the same period last year, even as the country bagged yet another 2-year safeguard extension to limit sugar imports from the COMESA trading bloc in order to protect its struggling millers from cheaper imports. However, the future of the country's sugar industry is still in doubt, with the Sugar Directorate admitting that most of the sugar factories are now operating at below 50% of their installed crushing capacity due to cane shortage in most sugar zones. Muhoroni Sugar and Mumia Sugar, whose assets are failing auction over piling debts, have already stopped milling operations in March and May respectively due to farmers' withdrawal over delayed cane payments. Sugar production in Kenya remains a costly affair. While it costs about $400 to produce a ton of sugar in Mauritius, it takes about $800 to manufacture the same in Kenya. Victor Kiprop, NTV Business.
It's been a tough year at the Nairobi Securities Exchange, with more than half of the companies listed seeing their share price dip between January and today's trade. This signals the adverse environment investors are grappling with at the bourse, even as key market indicators continue to trend downwards.
A bear market, one characterized by falling share prices, has made the hunt for returns increasingly elusive for investors at the Nairobi Securities Exchange. The NSE 20 Share Index, a sample of stocks used to represent the market and track its performance, closed today's trade at 2,876 points, putting it just about 22 percentage points above its lowest trough over the last decade. The bottom of the heap of underperforming stocks has been dominated by companies in the commercial and services segment, with the share prices of Deacons East Africa, Uchumi Supermarket and Eveready East Africa shedding 87%, 79.3% and 56.3% respectively between January and today's trade. Officials at the exchange have cited jitters by foreign investors regarding the adverse effects likely to be triggered by policy changes in the domestic environment as one of the key factors dampening performance at the exchange.
Initially, we had those conversation around the capital gains tax just last year. This year, there's been a conversation around the Robin Hood tax, and the concern is investors are saying these policies have been put in place without investor consultation.
As stock exchanges in other frontier markets such as Ghana and Nigeria exhibit equally bearish trends, developments around the global economy such as foreign exchange and the relative attractiveness of other safer investments will be key factors in determining the appetite for the Nairobi Securities Exchange. Julian Samboko, NTV.
The Kenyan Private Sector Alliance, that's KEPSA, has raised concerns over the government's increased appetite for debt and the impact that new taxes will have on business. The lobby group wants the National Assembly to come up with policies and plans to ensure that the government's key programs such as the Big Four are implemented without burdening Kenyans with tax. This came up during the Speakers Roundtable Conference with KEPSA and the 12th Parliament in Diani, that's in the county of Kwale.
Private sector needs to look at where are we going, what's happening. The Big Four agenda is also a big one. I think allocation there is important. We've got very good intentions, but we've got to make sure that the actions also now follow. And that's what private sector is trying to understand from everywhere to say, fine, are we all on the same page? So that's where we're trying to seek alignment.
We're not collecting enough revenue, we're not generating enough revenue. What do we need to do to increase our revenue collection? We need to increase our tax base, and then we need to get better systems. Can we use technology to collect our taxes better? Then revenue, how come we're not getting the investments we need? What's the problem with the environment, with the business environment?
The private sector is a critical engine of growth in any country, and that successful businesses drive growth. And we know, as the legislature, create jobs and, of course, pay taxes that finance services in any country. The private sector also provides essential goods and services such as banking, telecommunication.
Digital migration has created jobs and opened up opportunities for business in the media industry. This is according to ICT Cabinet Secretary Joe Mosheru, who says the industry's growth will continue to get full support of the government. Mosheru says the move by the ministry to license 65 radio stations and over 70 television stations shows the government's willingness to support the industry. He said venturing into vernacular media is also a good way of promoting various cultures while creating employment, especially among the youth. The CS spoke when officiating the opening of new offices and studios at Adhiani FM, a vernacular station that broadcasts in the Kamba dialect.
They're also going to be available on mobiles because they are streaming, and therefore even people overseas can be able to listen. So, Your Excellency, even with frequencies, say for Mombasa and other places, when you go online, you will be able to reach everyone across the world that can be able to understand the different languages. And as they hear, even those that dance reggae and enjoy the reggae music, irrespective of the language, they will be able to participate.
I want to assure you, CS, that this is one station that will never spread hate messages. And because I think this is very important in order to bring cohesion together. It's very easy to work towards cohesion. It's very easy for vernacular stations to say things that are very difficult. And there are always temptations to do so. But Adhiani has remained balanced, and I think it's thanks to the very solid management.
Well, that's it for business. My name is Dan Mwangi. But before we close it, I'll let Mark join me here. You know, it's World Teachers Day. And Mark, it seems you're a bad boy. I mean, Mark's greatest memories of high school was when he was beaten.
No, my underlying message was they disciplined us and we turned out good.
Yeah, no one is disciplined for nothing, Mark. Let me tell you, all my high school life, I only had 9 punishments. And those are those collateral where someone shouts in the dormitory, then you're asked, who is that?
Pet. Give us.
No.
Let's honor the teacher, please.
My teacher first is my late mom. Look, your mood changed. I got
respect.
you on that one.
Enough respect.
Yeah, Mrs. Joyce Njoroge, who was the teacher at Moi Girls School, Nairobi. She did a lot for me. Then in high school, in my high school at the Lenana School, the great Lenana School, I actually don't have my lapel today. I apologize to the teachers.
The teachers.
I know small schools have problems when when we talk big. I'll speak of Miss Kitala. We knew her as Mrs. Mganga then, and she's the one who trained me to perform poetry, even before I thought I was a poet. And so I don't have history, memories of being beaten and such things. Mark, I'll let the bad side be yours.
Again, we appreciate the teachers and how they put us in line. Madheka says, Mr. Alan Babashi, Starehe Boys Center and School, you were a funny but yet strict teacher. You made me love Swahili. Asante Babashi, Joseph Madheka, and yes, there's so many more that are being appreciated here. Mrs. Bosire, yes, I remember Mrs. Bosire, not for beating us, but for keeping us attentive in class.
Mrs. Bosire probably told him how to have a haircut. Business is done, so am I. Mark will be back.
I'll be back shortly. Bullseye. Welcome back. 5 people have died in 2 separate accidents along the Kitale-Lodwar highway. 3 people died and several others sustained serious injuries at the Kamatira Black Spot area. The head-on collision involved a lorry that was driving from Kitale to Totunyang in Turkana County and another driving from Lodwar. It took Kenya Red Cross volunteers and the police more than 5 hours to remove the bodies which were trapped in the wreckage. Along the Molo-Olongoruoni Road, 2 people died on the spot and 12 other passengers sustained serious injuries in an accident involving a 14-seater passenger service vehicle and a saloon car. The matatu was heading to Olenguruoni, from Nakuru when the accident occurred at the Timoi area. The patients are receiving treatment at the sub-county hospital. Kitui residents will hopefully bid farewell to the pangs of food insecurity and wanting healthcare as a result of Governor Charity Ngilu's just launched 2017-2022 strategic plan. The growth blueprint, which focuses on Ngilu's Big Five agenda, was launched on the same day as the new Kitui County Assembly chambers. The members of the Assembly have been urged to have debates of greater value for the good of the people as they begin work in the new facility. The debating chambers have been constructed at a cost of 247 million shillings. There have been strained relationships between the governor and the MCAs, but they have said they will put their differences aside to work for the betterment of the county.
We have hardly developed. You cannot continue having a country where 50%, 56% of us are living in abject poverty. Something is wrong. That is what we need to correct.
Everything that we do is about leadership. Where that part of Kenya where I come from, we say fish rots from the head. If the head is rotten, then there's no fish. So this leadership that I have seen is leadership that has a vision, and you cannot get lost if you don't know where you are going.
Honorable members, it is important to appreciate that the County Assembly over the period has not been conducting her business in a conducive legislative environment, which can also offer space for public, media, and other stakeholders.
Some regional and international news now. Rwandan High Court has granted bail to Diane Rwigara.
Watson Karuma. Now, Football Kenya Federation is requesting for more funding to facilitate Harambee Stars' preparations for the home and away AFCON 2019 fixture against Ethiopia. FKF says the government disbursed 7.3 million shillings only, and it gets worse. Harambee Stars head coach Sebastian Minye has put FKF on notice over unpaid salaries for 3 months. Brian Otwal with the details.
Football Kenya Federation is going through a severe cash crunch. The Harambee Stars assignment against Ethiopia hung in the balance. FKF says it has received 7.3 million shillings only from the government after it had requested 25 million shillings.
That we have received 7.2 million, which only covers flights and accommodation. So as I speak to you, ladies and gentlemen, we do not have money to pay the players their allowances. We do not have money to pay the coaches their allowances and other logistics around Ethiopia. After this briefing, we shall go and see what we can do about it.
The local-based players who have been in non-residential training depart for Addis Ababa on Sunday, where they are expected to link up with 14 foreign-based players before going to Bahir Dar, some 320 kilometers away from Ethiopian capital, for the tie. Even as the team prepares to face Ethiopia, head coach Sebastian Minye says he has worked for 3 months now without pay.
As an individual, if you have not been paid for 3 months, how would you feel? You understand what I'm saying? So I know that he's motivated. I have had a chat with him. There's a way in which he wants to get a job done. It's a good job. He has put in writing and said, I need to be paid by 15th, all my monies. And I think that's the only issue. I think he's motivated to get the job done. I think he wants to get it done. If we meet our obligations, I think the coach is happy.
Kenya takes on Ethiopia on Wednesday in the Africa Cup of Nations 2019 qualifiers, with a return set for 4 days later in Nairobi. After 2 rounds of matches, Kenya is currently second behind Ghana only on goal difference in Group F. Brian Otwal, NTV Sport.
Homeboys RFC coach Paul Pau Murunga is the new Kenya Sevens head coach. Mamba RFC and Kenya Lionesses head coach Kevin Wambua will deputize, with Geoffrey Kimani and Lamek Bogonko being retained as the strength and conditioning coach and the physiotherapist respectively. Current coach Innocent Simi will take charge of the team at the Africa Sevens on the 13th of October, after which the new management will take over. KRU CEO Sylvia Kamau says that technical team will sign 2-year contracts. Equity Hawks humiliated APR of Rwanda 70-46 to stay in the hunt for the FIBA Zone 5 Club Championships title in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. APR won the first quarter 32-11 before the Hawks fought back to lead 33-28 at halftime and 48-31 at the end of the third quarter. Belinda Okoth scored a game-high 16 points, while Hilda Indasi and Selina Okumu scored 12 points each for Equity. KPA play Patriots of Rwanda, while Strathmore Blades take on Egyptian champions Al Ali in the men's quarterfinals. Now, over 700 athletes have registered for the 12th edition of the Eldoret Family Group Foundation Half Marathon to be held on Sunday. Winners in both men and women's half marathon categories will pocket 250,000 shillings each, while the runners-up will take home 150,000 shillings and 100,000 shillings respectively. The marathon, which was inaugurated in 2007 as Family Bank Marathon, has produced world record holders, including 2011 World Junior Cross Country Champion Geoffrey Kamworor, among others.
For the 12th edition is
Now, of course, there has been a scroll that has been running at the bottom of your screen that stated the Ndakaini Marathon has been called off. Indeed, it is the elite race that has been called off. So if you're going there for the fun race, make sure you drive down to Ndakaini for the marathon. Again, I repeat, the Ndakaini Marathon for the fun events is still on. The elite race has had a few bumps, but remember, you have to make your way to Ndakaini for that race. And we apologize for that slight mix-up. Now, Brighton will be chasing just their second Premier League win of the campaign when they host...
would you honor?
Well, there are many, and there's one particular teacher, I call her teacher number one. She was not exactly my teacher, but she actually held my hand after I cleared high school and gave me a voluntary teaching job. And she's known as teacher number one. And I thank her because I think I would have lost, my teenage life if I did not get that voluntary job. Aww. I appreciate you, teacher
hold your hand.
And who do you appreciate?
I have already Mr. Kabiru, Mr. and Mrs. Lonkushu, and Paula Moji from Tangaza. I appreciate all of them, and there are many more, and we appreciate the feedback you've given us.
Most definitely. And of course, that was during the World Teachers Day, which is, by the way, today. So make sure you text that favorite teacher and tell him or her thank you for a job well done.
All right. Again, no holding hands? Okay. All right. Let's do Bullseye. Let's leave you with Bullseye now. We promised that we have to bring it. Now, the dancers are back, and with their return, political temperatures are rising. While the talk appears to revolve around unity, development, and the war on graft, the real elephant in the room is the 2022 equation. With the handshake, a lot of political shaking is also going on, and as Emmanuel Juma reports on Bullseye, it's also time for revelations as new friends are chosen.
Bill is hitting the dance floor very regularly these days. And Baba and Steve are once again wearing those dancing shoes. Something is cooking.
Wawache fitina. That is as simple as it is, my friends.
That may be so, but every time they begin dancing this regularly, they are up to something.
Hamuwezi kunifukuza ODM, ati mukanifuata ati munanifukuza Jubilee. Haiwezekani.
Someone is plotting a William Ruto defection from Jubilee.
Tell William Ruto, wachana na maneno ya kuambia Wakenya eti Raila anamfukuza Jubilee. How is Raila related to Jubilee?
Yes, William. How?
If you think you are going to use the handshake to export conmanship into our party, we are telling you that's not going to happen.
Nimeona tumeanza vita dhidi ya ufisadi. Na hiyo vita dhidi ya ufisadi ndio inaleta ile mtetemeko. Wana watu wanapiga kelele, wanabweka kama mbwa. Kwa sababu ya ile mtetemeko ya vita dhidi ya ufisadi.
My friends, don't pretend that you are the ones who are spearheading the fight against corruption. The constitution is very clear.
The elephant in the room, it seems, is the 2022 equation.
Sisi kama wana Trans Nzoia jirani yetu ni huyu mjamaa hasa kama Chris Wamalwa mwenye anatoka hapa Sugoi. Mungu akimjalia anakuwa president 2022, Chris Wamalwa anakuwa governor wa Trans Nzoia County.
But before you become governor, some revelations.
Nikuwe padri kama huyu Father Abraham. Nikaenda kwa seminary. Nikakaa kwa seminary, muda mfupi barua yangu ikakuja ya kusema ya kwamba niende university. Nikasema waje niende nimalize university,
and then
nikaenda university. Mwaka ya kwanza mambo ilikuwa sawa sawa. Mwaka ya 4 vindu vichenjanga.
Let's just say Chris alinaswa.
Hey! Nikapata mwanadada kutoka Central ameumbwa. Anarembeka. Anametameta. Na nikashindwa kuresist.
Then he embarked on the road to redemption.
Nilikuwa nasalamia papa. Mmeona mimi nimebarikiwa? Ama mjaona hiyo maneno?
Wewe ulienda kwa pop, mimi nilienda mahali sasa Yesu mwenyewe alizaliwa.
Between these two, who would you say is closer to the Almighty then?
Na Yesu asifiwe.
Uninyunyizie Bwana, unioshe nitakate. Bwana, niwe mweupe kabisa.
Okay, Ken, enough. We get the point.
Na Yesu asifiwe.
You both win, gentlemen. Then there is the issue of the 8% VAT on fuel.
Nani alikuwa naamini kweli baba atakubali 8% iwekwe kwa mafuta?
Uhuru alikuwa hana chaguo. Ukweli mpaka isemwe.
Kenya Uhuru amemfanyia baba. Ai, hata hiyo naye. Hata mimi naye hiyo. Si nilikuwa ninasema tu handshake. Lakini sikuamini baba ataenda huko ndani, yeye ndiye anatandikia Uhuru kitanda.
But Kutunyi, you are also there at the house on the hill. Which part of that house were you assigned?
Nikalala ndani na nikatupwa jikoni. Kwa Biblia nikakuwa kama Joseph.
Talking of kitchens and bedrooms.
Ingia mpaka bedroom yake na sijisifu, na waambia tu kwa taarifa mjue.
What were you doing in a single lady's bedroom?
Lakini sikuingia kwa mabaya, niliingia tu kwa kumpongeza kwa kazi nzuri anayofanyia watu wa Malindi.
And here is the owner of the bedroom Mustafa is talking about.
Ni mtu si mtu. Mimi jamani nikisema naitwa sishuki, nitakuwa nimekosea.
She has chosen a new suitor and she's liking it. But why do they do it?
Najua lazima inzi akufe, lakini nategemea vile unakufa. Ile inzi iko na akili inakufia kwa maziwa. Ile inzi iko na ujinga inakufia kwa choo. Mimi nikasema siwezi kufia kwa choo, nitakufia kwa maziwa.
You've got to love these guys. By the way, that handshake issue, Steve, did Baba tell you about it?
My friend Raila did not tell me when he went there.
Na baadaye mimi nikapiga Kalonzo simu kabla tujatangaza. Simu yake ilikuwa mteja.
Steve's phone had a problem. This is how the Migori man could have described it.
Anapata shida kwa sababu ya disasters.
Angoa.
Disasters.
So what do you want?
Tunataka usaidie hao watu wanafanya kwa serikali ya government. Government kutoka Burundi.
I give up, but there was an eyewitness.
My name is called Daniel Utina Dongo, and I want to talk to people to understand what was done there.
And what did you see?
I saw what even my father was dead before he showed that thing.
My, oh my.
We should not work there. We should just remembering going there and died.
I am also dead, sir.
Nothing we should get there. Just died only. We should get there.
Emmanuel Juma, Bullseye, NTV.
What a way to end NTV Weekend Edition. Thank you for watching. My name is Mark Masai, and thank you to Raphael for his sign language interpretation. In a moment, it will be time for Amina Abdi to take the center stage, and they're getting prepared to give you an entertaining trend edition tonight. Have a good night.